Our next speakers, Purnima Bansal and Priya Jathar, bring deep experience from AWS. Purnima helps enterprises across telecom, media, and gaming level up their cloud and AI capabilities. Priya has 2 decades experience across app development, database, analytics, and cloud architecture. Please welcome Purnima and Priya.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, like the gentleman very nicely introduced, I am Purnima from AWS and I am an account manager with the TMEDA segment, that is Telco, Media, Gaming, and Social. And the core day to day job that I have is to help enterprises build using cloud native technologies and, of course, generative AI. With prior product and engineering roles, I champion for responsible AI adoption. And of course, much like my fellow Amazonian and all the Amazonians out there, we are customer obsessed and also tech enthusiasts. So, along with my colleague Priya, as was introduced today, we'll be touching upon a roadmap for enterprise builders, similar to some of the questions that were raised today, right, in the prior sessions, as to how do organizations not only move from learning about agentic AI, but also implementing it at scale. But first things first, why are we even having these kind of conversations, right? Why are we investing a good weekend attending events that have to do with AI? And it's not just happening locally, it's happening at the global scale. As you would know, AWS re-event is just around the corner. Because the data has to speak for itself. As per Gartner, more than 80% of enterprises will have deployed GenAI APIs or applications by 2026. And if you think about it, that's not even the near future, it's like the near present. So, drilling down a bit further as to how are organizations driving this change, how are they adopting this transformation and harboring the next wave of change. So, we have a couple of insights based on certain data that was collected. First of all, in the preparation and anticipation of this change that's coming in, organizations, especially enterprises, they have carved out a specialist role that is of a chief AI officer. So, the primary objective of this role is to have AI driven transformation or development as a key agenda for the enterprises. And as per the survey that we did, 83% of organizations already have a CIO in place, and 15% are planning to appoint one by 2026. And 25% of organizations already have a change management strategy in place where they are looking to upskill their employees or you have a active AI strategy in place. But second side is this hardier surprise that GenAI continues to be a top priority when it comes to AI decision makers deciding as to where do they put their money, what is going to be the investment area. It continues to be GenAI applications. Now that we have established that AI isn't just a fad, it's a key priority area for the decision makers to derive key business value. What are some of the top barriers that we get to hear about? It's about the skill set that the workforce brings in, and also maybe the cost of development and deployment. But as we speak, 43% of organizations have fully integrated Gen AI in some form of the other, and they are ready to embrace the AI transformation that's coming in India. With that, amongst the surveyed enterprises, 98% of organizations are using Gen AI tools and 95% are actively experimenting with some kind of Gen AI tool or the other. And as a natural consequence of that, and that's how all of us care are also even more relevant, that AI talent becomes a competitive advantage. Now that enterprises are focusing towards building this kind of tech and these kind of applications. But what is the strategy when it comes to your ship solutions to meet the business needs in order to seek real value out there? It is to leverage fine-tuned models followed by out-of-the-box models, which increasingly focus on developing internal as well as external capabilities. Now, this is something that we are actively seeing as part of our customer conversations as well, that enterprises are trying to find a balance of building internal capability and finding relevant external participations. But up until now, what we have looked at is how enterprises are adopting GenAI, what is the leadership shift that's coming in, how are they trying to upskill the workforce that is involved. But there is a tipping point. Even though this is a key momentum out there, this is where we see the shift happening, this is still what we could say is the first wave of AI adoption, where GenAI is being primarily used for content generation, your summarization use cases, productivity enhancement, essentially something that is largely assisted in nature. What we see now, where the real value could be unlocked, is what we could call the second wave of AI adoption, which is the agentic AI. Now here, AI stops being just a assistant to you. It becomes a self-autonomous or a semi-autonomous body that can interpret, that can decide, and take action accordingly. Now, this is where we see that industry is also really Hegel. Gartner predicts that by 2028, 33% of enterprises would be looking at agentic AI solutions, which is currently at just 1%. And perhaps even more transformative could be 15% of day-to-day work decisions could be taken by agentic AI. So, agentic AI isn't just the next feature, it is the next operating model that is going to be out there. But what exactly is an AI agent? We have been hearing about it day long, also probably in the sessions yesterday. So at the simplest level, AI agent is different from your traditional Gen AI because the traditional Gen AI models still wait for your prompt. An agent is an autonomous or a semi-autonomous software system that can reason about a task. It can create a list of steps that are involved. It can take actions which are often across multiple tools or multiple platforms. And it can do all this to accomplish a specific goal. It could be a digital environment or a physical environment. In other words, agents don't just generate outputs, they are focusing on generating outcomes. But why is agentic AI taking off now? What happened in the last 12 to 18 months that we are, talking about how enterprises are getting up to adopt this kind of tech? So there are three major pillars that have led to this shift converging. These are models, toolings, and frameworks. Now, first of all, when it comes to models, we now have models that go far beyond than just text generation, right? We are multi-models now that can understand audio, video, other types of complex inputs that you could provide. We had agent optimized models that are smaller, faster, and are built to work in an agentic AI operating model. So what else? We have specialized domain models as well. You talk about BFSI, health related, media related. So these kind of specialized agents are coming in with more embedded knowledge in them. This means that agents can now perceive richer inputs, make smarter decisions, and take action accordingly. The second pillar is around tooling. We have agent orchestration platforms, which are allowing tools to coordinate amongst the complex agent workflows. We have simulation and testing environments, which allow enterprise and AI developers like yourself to have a safe environment where you could build using agentic AI stack. Then observability and debugging tools are out there with the new generation of monitoring that is tailored for your autonomous systems. We also have knowledge grounding pipelines, which are essentially richer pipelines to keep agents contextually aligned and up to date. Coming to the third pillar, which is the frameworks. Now we have composable agent architectures that allow plug and play kind of framework that you can use to mix and experiment with more agents at once. Secondly, you have responsible agent frameworks which have already embedded ethics, guardrails, and explainability into all these agentic actions. Third is related to open source ecosystems, which allows for collaborative development and also the fade fast strategy that we would like to have. Next is the agentic design pattern, which is the emerging best practices that we've been talking about, and also some of the templates for building best agent behaviors. So, as an amalgamation of all this, the enterprises had that confidence to adopt agents at a larger scale and also at a possible speed. At AWS, we've been working with customers, watching across multiple sectors, multiple industries, and there are three key areas where we see agentic contributing to a lot of business value. First, of course, is workplace productivity, wherein current agentic AI applications are getting integrated in your existing platforms. So things such as Zoom, Asana, you have an agent attached to it, which enhances the productivity of your day-to-day work. Second is business workflows. So here, enterprises are customizing, building, workflow agents to streamline operations across functions like financial reporting, demand forecasting, your day-to-day incident reporting. Third is a very interesting area which has to do with innovation and research. So as you know, these type of fields are where you have to do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to delivering insights from complex data. So agents are coming in to automate your complex data analysis, separations, allowing time to researchers and innovators to focus on strategic research work and not just the complex technical execution. And as we look across some of the key industry area here with use cases that we'll be discussing with the customers to seek more value out of agentic AI. So just to cover a couple of them, and of course we have limited time here. So for instance, in financial services, we are seeing comparing applications related to underwriting. So as we all know, underwriting is a very complex data centric process. It can be slow, it can be inconsistent because there's a lot of manual processes involved. So we have our own platform called Agent Core, which we'll be covering much more in depth in the later part of the session. So financial institutions cannot deploy agents that can make data-driven decisions that are not only safe but also informed by the existing models and frameworks. Similarly, in the media and entertainment field, where content management itself becomes a very complex problem to solve. So, Agent Core enables companies to scale and deploy agents that can process this kind of complex information. They can automate technical tasks such as creating metadata, transforming social media category from one to another. Essentially, the traditional tasks that require a lot of manual effort, and those can be automated using the agentic AI approach. But these are only a couple of examples you can pursue further during the after the session as well. So I'll quickly skip through this. Now, before we go through the enable deep dive and we talk about what are the actual use cases that you can go ahead and build, just wanted to quickly touch upon this real life case study that we did, Dhruva. So Dhruva is a provider for data security solutions, and they are enabling a lot of businesses out there in order to do a natural language introduction for their platform security. So a key challenge that Dhruva was facing was the complex data security and recovery workflows that are out there. While they were able to provide insights to the customer, the challenge for the customers was to piece together those insights and to be able to form a meaningful, reasoning across multi-cloud platforms or across multi-complex technical platforms they had. So Dhruva built something called Do AI, which is an intelligent solution that automates data security tasks and improves customer support. Now, the interesting part here is by implementing this platform called Dua AI, Dua achieved a 63% self-service issue resolution, which essentially means 63% of the cases that they were, they were automatically handled by AI. And when it came to the human-assisted cases, the overall resolution time was decreased by 50%. And they were able to do all this with 0% hallucination rate, which is amazing because these are some of the concerns that some of the enterprises have about agent AI solution, right? So this has been built using Amazon Bedrock Agent Port on AWS, of course, and it features intelligent agents that can interpret user intent, that can analyze data, and take meaningful action. So this shift basically is a clear example as to how enterprises can move beyond, traditional query-based AI and return towards agentic systems that are designed for action. So with that, clearly at AWS, we want to be the best place for you to build and experiment with agentic AI. But I would like to invite my colleague Priya Jokter, who is a senior solution architect at AWS, to do a deeper dive as to how can you actually achieve it using AWS. So over the hand for Priya.
Thank you, Punima, for the introduction. So at AWS, we are committed to basically help you build applications at any scale. Just like all of our other services and solutions that we have been providing, we also want to continue the journey when you're building your generative AI applications or agentic applications, primarily with a focus on security, reliability, and scale. Our approach is basically see how you can actually accelerate your building time and actually move from a production scale to from a POC scale to a production. So, like Purnima said, one of the observations that Gartner has provided is that 40% of the projects that are starting as agentic AI are bound to fail, okay, by 2027. And the primary reason is that though we are doing so many POCs, people are not able to identify what is the business value that they are getting out of doing this agent, right? And the reason because there is a lot of aspects of risk and control that has to be in place before you put something in production, right? At a POC scale, many things work well, but for it to be really in production at an enterprise, you need to prove a lot of more factors. And when you see typically what happens in an AI agent is that you will see that it has to first discuss with, like in this case, like in a multi-agent scenario, it has to interact with many other agents to do the tasks. And each of the agent may be calling different backend systems or accessing different data from different other applications as well. Now, when you're going to be having all of these talking to each other, obviously aspects of security, authentication, how much information is it able to read, how much information is it able to fetch on its own, all of these aspects come in, and that's what makes it more complex. Second is we still need to have a human in the loop till your agent is really perfect so that you're not actually delivering information out of your organization, which is not to be allowed, right? So this actually brings it and makes it more complex for people to do. Now we come to the same that what happens at scale, right? When you're starting at a POC and when you're moving that to a production scale, what are all the things that happen? When we're doing a POC, we are looking at more so from an excitement perspective. You're seeing what are all the potentials, what all the things that we can build, and the stage is different. But as you go into a real production mode, there are multiple things that happen. Firstly, what happens when you're building an agentic app? It's not like a traditional app where you already know the flow, how the application will go through, right? Because you're going to give the agent the power to think, decide what has to do next, and give the reasoning power. Now, because of that, you cannot build an application which can go and test all the scenarios that the agent can go through because you don't know it, it's not predefined. Second thing is that the agent's life cycle is very different from a typical app, right? There could be some which will finish in microseconds, there could be some which could go hours, and there could be some which could even go days. So there is a context of a longer time frame that you need to think when you're actually deploying and building these agents. Thirdly aspect is the agent needs to be accessing all the backend systems securely. So how are you going to be able to manage all the auth, authentication, token and things like that at scale? Fourthly, the agent is always powerful only when you're going to give it tools and make it available so that it can discover new tools and build that as well. If you're not going to allow it to discover, then obviously you're going to curtail the power of the agent itself, right? And fifthly, there are going to be multiple steps of the workflow, right, for it to do autonomously, right? You're not going to build all of it like Mandar said, right? It's not one mega agent is going to do 100 things, right? You're going to have a workflow. Now, within the workflow, how are you going to control and make each of them autonomous and also share the knowledge between each other, right? Because of all of this, it actually becomes pretty difficult when you're going to really implement a full-fledged solution in production. So obviously, along with it, your other challenges which we typically see is performance, scalability, security control, and governance aspects to it. And this is where AWS actually helps you, where it builds and gives you all the things that you really need to build these applications at scale, right? First is we provide you pre-built agents which you can quickly use and get started on people who don't want to really go ahead, start the whole journey and build themselves. So you can quickly start reducing the time to value to market, wherein you can just use some of the pre-built agents. Second is for all the people who are builders like many of us here who are helping, where you are getting all the tools and access to all the models, wherein you can build whatever kind of agents that you want to have, right? And of course, infrastructure at scale, wherein you can use multiple of the AWS services to really build your agent and make it powerful. And of course, what we are also giving is expertise and best practices available for that. You can build your applications quickly and with aspects of security and governance in place as well, which is typically needed in an enterprise setup. Now, from a building perspective of any custom agent in AWS, we have divided into three phases. First is ideation and planning. We got something called as Kiro. Kiro is present in an IDE format or in a CLI format, wherein using Kiro, you can actually do spec-driven or vibe coding to build your agent quickly. Second is at the development and an implementation perspective, we have got an open source contribution called as Strands agent. Okay, so Strands, like the way of a DNA, it says that you just need two things. One is you need your logic, and next is you need all the tools that you need to build your agent, right? So you can quickly onboard and build these agents using Strands agent, wherein you just have to do simple annotations to your code and automatically you can deploy it as a runnable component. And the third is, of course, the aspect after you build your code, you need to know how you're going to be productionizing it and running at scale, correct? And that's where we have got something called as agent core, Bedrock agent core, on which many of the other aspects which are told as a challenge which product organizations have can be addressed with agent core. And we will dive into this a little bit in detail in the coming slides. Now, just on a whole overall AI portfolio, what are the things that we have, right? Like I said, there are three rows that you can look at it from. For some organizations who want to get started quickly, you can just use some of the agent AI applications which we already have. I just talked about Kiro, which is our the one which helps you in development. And then we also have something called as Amazon Quick Suite, which is basically a generative BI solution, right? So we see another big group of people who have got analysts and I would say data scientists as well, who are sitting in a whole pool of data and they don't know how they can do their work faster and better, because just doing a SQL conversion is not enough in their cases where they're doing a deep dive analysis, right? In that scenario, they want to use something using which they can actually talk to the agent, and the agent will understand the scenario and step by step go ahead and build, and also build some complex flows or automations and things like that, right? And this is not just on structured data, but it's a combination of structured and unstructured data. And that's something which is provided by Amazon Quick Suite. Same way, we have got another agent called as AWS Transform. I'm not sure if how many of you have heard of AWS Transform. Basically, it helps you migrate older code maybe which is in older versions of Java, it could be mainframe code or any of the older .NET code, and basically convert that into the latest versions. So, from a security perspective, if you want to abide by the latest of the libraries and things like that, so if you have compatibility issues and things like that, all of that can be handled by using AWS Transform. We have used in Amazon itself, where we had codes which was written in older generations of Java. We have actually migrated within a week, we could migrate more than 2000 plus applications, and it's tested at scale. And then we also have something like Connect, and you can also publish and create your own agents and put it in our marketplace. There's a marketplace for India available now. So, any of you are really wanting to explore and want to create your agent and put it in the marketplace, more than welcome. You're all here to help you out do that. Second, what we have is that, as I said, the mid pillar, what you're seeing is basically help you do agent building. So, basically you have got all the tools and whatever you need as a framework for building these agents, right? So, one what I talked about is Trans Agent, which is our open source contribution. We also have something called as Noah Act. Noah Act is basically a model which will help you execute code, right? So, the code could be a browser based code, or code could be any form, wherein any step of action that you say or auto code that you have written, that can get executed. This is pretty much useful where people want to do smaller tasks quickly, emulate something like an existing application and execute that fast, right? So, there is a school of products which are actually built using Noah Act as well. We are seeing an adoption of that. And then of course, we got our Amazon Bedrock, which is basically the place wherein you have all these models available to you as a simple API, which you can invoke. And we got our own Amazon Noah models and other third-party models available here with Bedrock. Other capabilities that Bedrock provides is basically optimizations from a standpoint that you want to implement a RAG kind of an implementation, where you want to incorporate knowledge bases from your organization and bring that in. It also provides customization. So, if you want to do any fine tuning, if you want to do all of those higher, you want to bring your own existing model and putting it as an LLM and sharing it as an for inference, all of those things can be done. And of course, guardrails. I think one of the key things that most people ask is security. How much of my data am I showing data which is not allowed to actually my end customer, because agent itself is doing a lot of things. So, guardrails, how you can apply at various levels and at scale, is something which Bedrock provides. And now what you see after that is Agent Core, which I will be diving into detail. There are multiple components of Agent Core which will actually help you build this and put it in production. And we have got the best in class infrastructure available to you. So, you could start with your traditional models and make them in the loop when you're going to be using an agentic AI you're building, or you could use specialized compute which are available for you for training and inferencing. So, across the stack, anybody who wants to start in whichever journey they are in the enterprise, you can actually adopt each of these and derive your benefits. Now, when you're typically building an agent, what are the aspects that you think about, right? Always everybody thinks an agent will have a model, but model is only one part of the whole story, right? The bigger aspects is like the tools that the model has, the agent has access to. Like Mandar mentioned, you don't want to have a sea of NCP servers coming and then clogging and making a model agent ineffective. But first thing what you need to do is, what is the goal of an agent? Keep that tight, so that exactly that goal what it should achieve, you should try making the agent only achieve to that part and not expand your goal. And aspects of memory. So, memory, short term memory, long term memory, all of these aspects have to be thought about. And whatever actions that you want the agent to do, right? Obviously, the actions could be a user interaction action wherein you want to ask some, the user is giving some input which is not complete, but you want to ask further information and enhance it and then further take a decision, right? Because the agent is going to be having reasoning power in it. And of course, the most important is observation and guardrails. In any enterprise, you obviously need to know what happened, right? If an agent gave a wrong answer, also you can be, as a business, you can be legally asked, why did you give a wrong answer, and you have to give justification. So, as builders, you need to have observation and guardrails to the best. I think somebody talked about traceability today morning, very much relevant, right? And obviously, the data within your organization has to be given to the agent so that it can perform tasks which you want to perform from an organization's perspective. Now, here what happens is, Amazon Bedrock basically gives you the choice of the leading models. from AWS, the Nova suite of models, and of course third party. We also give you ways in which you can actually customize and use RAG pipelines simply, easily. Okay, any kind of data, it could be unstructured data, it could be graph data, whatever kind of data that you want, actually you can actually bring it to your agent's context. How you can apply safety and responsible AI principles also when you're implementing. So it could be an agent, it could be a simple application, whatever you're building, how you can actually put all of these checks and balances. And of course, how you can experiment, do evaluation with different types of models, different types of flows, so that your agent is cost effective and accurate as well, right? And finally, orchestrate the agents as we spoke about. This is just a list of some of the third-party models that are available with AWS, and obviously, as Mandar mentioned as well, every other day there are new agents coming in, new models coming in, and obviously everybody wants to experiment with what is the latest, right? So with just a simple API call, you can actually go switch over other models, evaluate and decide what you want to do. So keeping it not as a core coded insight, but as a programmatic way in which you can switch over and test different models. Now I'll just go jump into a little bit about the agent implementation part itself on Strands Agent. Strands Agent is a simple Python SDK using which you can just build agents in few lines, right? It's pretty intuitive, not too complex. With just a few annotations you can get going with an existing code as well, okay? It has access to, so basically interline, it can connect to, it understands MCP servers and it can talk in MCP ways, so that it's easy for you to integrate with anything. AWS also has an MCP server, so pretty much it understands many of the AWS services and functions. So if you're building on AWS ecosystem, it's pretty easy. And it's extensible, so you can always introduce new tools to it so that it becomes powerful. And of course, rapid development is some of its key capabilities. Being open source, obviously it's nothing proprietary of AWS, anybody can use it and run it anywhere as well. Though we have got some advantages of running it on AWS. So what are the foundation services that you need to run? Actually, first is that enhance with tools and memory, right? How can you manage the memory aspect of it, right? Early days, we used to actually write a lot of code so that you do the short term, long term memory and then fetching it and then summarizing the memory and deciding what to do, because the memory can grow very long. If your agent is very chatty and people are talking a lot with it, then it can go crazy, right? Second aspect is a browser based tool, as I told you, like the Nova Act 1, right? Where you want to have some browser based execution. So you want to tell it and it will execute all those steps in a particular browser and complete the activity and come back with the results. And we also have code interpreter. So basically you tell something and it will generate code and execute the code and come back to you. So any program that you have written already can be done. So all of these are basic components which you have. And we also have something called as gateway. So the gateway is basically, like the word says, just like how we used to have an API gateway at one point of time, this is basically a gateway of agent to talk to any other agents, right? An agent to talk to any other API or any MCP server and things like that. So that at a gateway level, you can throttle, you can define what in my organization are the MCP servers it will talk to, or within the organization, what are the controls from an authentication access perspective, all of that can be done. So that you have a clear policy of governance put in the gateway level itself. Next is to deploy at scale. What do you need? You need a runtime, as understood. And obviously, you need an identity management system, because you need to know who did what when, and access to each of the backend systems using identity, right? And of course, the third aspect, as I told you, observability. So all these components which you are seeing here are all part of agent core itself, where you can pick and choose which of these components you want in your implementation, right? And what we do from a support from an open source perspective, agent core natively supports MCP and A2A. A2A is agent to agent, which is a contribution from Google, and MCP being a contribution from Claude, Anthropic, right? You can use any framework of development. So we are not saying you adopt ABC framework for development. You can use Crew AI, you can use Google ADK, you can use LangGraph, any of those adoption, any of the framework that you want to orchestrate and build your agent, right? But what we say is, in spite of you using any of the protocol or any of the framework, you can use agent core effectively to boot it at scale with the aspects of security and governance which I talked about. Now, what happens when an agent you have written code, right? How does it go ahead behind the scene, right? First is, you have any framework that you use, as I said, you basically give all the agent instructions, okay? If you want to use any local tools that you want to access, you define them. You define a context, what the agent will be doing, that's the goal of the agent. And you will associate it with any model from anywhere. It could be OpenAI, it could be Gemini, it could be Nova, it could be anybody, right? Bedrock as well. And then after that, you will put all of this and put it into the agent core runtime, okay? The runtime could be various options, right? The runtime could be a Lambda function runtime. If it's a small thing, it could be a ECS or an EKS. It could be anywhere. you can define, or EC2, right? So you can define where the runtime has to be, depending on your scale or how long the agent has to be running. And then you will plug it along with the agent core gateway if you want to connect to external entities or internal entities in this way. If you want to use agent core browser to execute some code in a browser, yes, you could do that, or with the code interpreter, right? So depending on what your logic of your agent is, you could use any of these, and obviously all of these are connected through core identity, which is going to be showing exactly who's using what when and all the rules that you will be defining. And along with the runtime, we will also be associating agent core memory aspect. Memory has both short term and long term. So you can define in configuration saying that what do you want to have in short term, what do you want to have in long term. And obviously the aspect of observability, exactly what is happening at runtime, what's happening between these interactions, all of these services, all of that can be observed using CloudWatch or other services that we have got in detail, using which you can get one pane of view of what's actually happening. Now, once you have a simple agent, like Mandar said, you will obviously go into the, when you realize in a production scale, you're going to have not one agent, but multi-agent collaboration that's happening. So there could be a supervisor agent, which is going to call other sub-agents, and they are going to call other things. Each one is going to have their own memory and their own components, correct? Now, this is going to be how the reality is going to be. And in this case, just giving an example, the green line is basically showing all the authentication, user authentication aspects like that. And then there is going to be aspect of identity and some aspect of authentication, like can this agent call this agent 1 or not, or what can it share or not, all of these aspects as well. So identity service is also a key thing which you will be need really when you're going to be doing at scale. And like I told, in agent core, any of these components are, they're not like you have to use all of them. You can pick and choose wherever is your weak link or wherever you think you need to have in your development, right? You could only choose runtime and identity. You could choose only gateway to begin with, or whichever of the ways, right? Now let's look at an example of one customer who has actually implemented this at scale, right? This is an example of Innovaser. Innovaser is a healthcare company in the US, okay? And they are generally associated with the government and they help people do immunization, okay? They have got about 1,400 odd health clinics which they support all across the country in the US, right? And each state has their own policy of what the health records are, where they are kept, how they are kept. And they also have their own schedules of this immunization, okay? Innovaser, what they did is they build a multi-agent workflow using agent core, wherein they help people when they come and ask a question, when do I need what in immunization I need, it will automatically tell you, right? And it will do multiple things. This architecture is basically showing that using strands or LangGraph, LangGraph for orchestration, they basically build the healthcare agent. It was using LLMs from AWS, security of course for Cognito, and they use aspects of agent core gateway and agent core identity. Now the advantage of using agent core gateway is because each of the states had their own place where they were holding their own citizen details and their healthcare details, obviously grown by HIPAA and others. They had to have a way in which the gateway can securely go and talk to each of those specific deployments and get their information. And their data is all stored in Health Lake. So obviously, depending on what, only specific entities can fetch that FHIR, health in identity of for a particular person and get that information back. So what they did is they use multiple tools, as you say, the multiple tools to do, and finally they built the agent which can actually do this. So this is just a demo. This is not the real app of theirs. This is just a demo to showcase what the use case is. You can scan the QR code to see the Git code for how it looks like. So in this, what it says is the person is basically asking, this person has come and asked, I want to actually do this. I'm so and so, and I want to come and look at what is my next immunization schedule. Okay. It actually goes behind the scene and says, okay, I'll go understand what is this, but just the name of the detail of the person and some other information of the person, it goes and finds out that the person has a child and and then they say, okay, let me go check what's the immunization for your child, okay. And then it says that, okay, the child's name is so and so, what is the age of the child from the health records of the person, gets further this and what is the immunization that's been already given to the child, right. And then it says, now you are actually ready for having these immunizations. When can I book a schedule for you so that you can come and do the immunization, right? And then finally it says, okay, these are the options, okay, and would you want me to schedule, and it can go ahead and book the schedule as well. So in this case, what you see is, it is securely getting information, health record data by compliance and getting that information of the particular patient, okay, or child, I should say in this case, and then also go and see that depending on this, what are by looking at its knowledge base, seeing that in this particular state, what are the immunizations applicable for that child at that age, and then also doing the booking in the backend, relevant backend system. So this way they simplified the process wherein people would have otherwise called to a call center, gone somewhere, booked an appointment, asked for an appointment, all the cycle they cut off, and they could do this very easily. And they had more than 60% benefit of reduced calls and management and all of this by just introducing this agent. So like this, you can really think about real life cases where at scale you can build agents, not a single but a set of agents could be to really meet your business requirements. But you can use agent code to build all of these easily. What we also see, like one of the gentlemen asked the questions today, one of the key problem, 46% of the problem people don't adopt is governance. You're giving the power from a human to an agent who's going to reason itself and decide. It's going to get access to systems and it's going to do a lot of things. So you really don't know how much information or how much things it's going to take away, right, or expose it. And that's why we're looking at what can you do for that, and that's where responsible AI comes into place, where you put in the policies for that. Amazon Bedrock gives you guardrails to be put in place, okay. So there are various types of guardrails that you could use, right. It could be for text or image, it could be for all of these categories. So there could be aspects like content filters that you put denied topics, because people, if you're given a like an agent, you can ask any questions, right. So you can also define topics you avoid, and of course automated reasoning, saying that is the person asking something relevant or not, and then take a decision there in itself. And sensitive filters, right, and what filters you want, and also contextual grounding. So you may want to build grounding saying that this particular agent will only do these 4 things, and anything else the person asks, what else not to do. You can also give domain specific information also in the grounding, saying that if it's a healthcare agent and you're going to be talking something about a disease, it should be allowing you to do that first, because there are models which will not let you talk some topics. But in this case, if you want to say allow it to talk, but only talk of these topics, you can do that also. So grounding is something very essential, something Mandar was telling about how it can hallucinate or it can do other things. Grounding actually will help you solve that problem. So my last call to action to all of you is start now. First is aspect, of course, learn, repeat and accelerate. That's the core thing, and that's why you spent your Sunday here, Saturday, Sunday here and doing that. I think so I'm happy about that. First is aspect is find out the use case discovery, finalize the business data which you'll have for that, and of course go through. I think from a POC to go to the final after your decision of proof of value, I think that's where the challenge comes in. Identify that how you, even for your POC to be successful and not just a technical part from a business standpoint, identify and think through what are the other questions the business teams will ask you and how you can justify those, right? Before you even put to production, you should have answers to all the other questions, and then of course use agent code to basically put it at scale. We have a starter kit already available for you. So this is just a starter kit for agent core itself. So there are too many components, sounds too complex, but actually it's really not so. You can use a starter kit and get started quickly. You can scan the QR, it has basically the code and all the basics, and there are many samples also already available which you can get started quickly, right? All the steps for everything, right? Configuring, launch and invoke and execution. You can get started. We got AWS. I think all of you may be knowing, and if not, I'll just want to repeat, not want to be prompting about it, but AWS account, any of the developers can create, and we got a free version. It's nothing to be charged. So, as a developer, you can always go download, log in and use AWS services. Along with that, we also have wherein for the Quick Suite and Kiro and Transform, many of these are free. So, please feel free and start your agentic journey quickly using all of these. Now, I'll just want to invite Purnima again to talk about AI for Bharat.
Thanks a lot, Priya, for that information, and I hope it was useful for the folks out here. So, just wanted to quickly touch upon AI for Bharat. What is it about, and how does it hold relevance for the folks here? So, AI for Bharat is basically a joint initiative that is powered by AWS, and it's a two-phase program that is designed to help developers in India to turn the AI philosophy into action and build real life use cases and hold a real business impact. So this is a nationwide movement, as we are calling it, which is bringing together brightest of developers to learn, innovate and transform India's current AI current AI landscape. So how can you basically participate? So this will have two kinds of phases that we spoke about. First is going to be the learning phase, wherein you'll have specialists from AWS helping you out with hands-on skill development in the form of workshop, and the cherry on top would be the certifications that you can get. In the build phase, there will be a national hackathon challenge, which will come in with different kind of unique problem statements and also some exciting incentives for your business and your use case. And the interesting part is that anybody can participate. If you're a student, if you're a professional, if you're a startup, or if you're just freelancers, this particular program is open for all to register. And these are some of the benefits and rewards that can be sought out along with the prize pool. You have certifications, you have access to experts like Priya as well that are part of this initiative, and you get national recognition and of course networking as a side this thing of participating in this movement. So if you would like to take a snapshot of this, feel free. These are the timelines that we have. The registrations are open till February 1st, 2026, and followed by that you will have different program timelines as well. So just feel free to take a snapshot and do participate if this is something that interests you. Great. So with that, you would like to close out, and if there are any questions, Priya and I would be happy to take.